Sansa. The walls of the throne room had been stripped bare, the hunting tapestries that King Robert loved taken down and stacked in the corner in an untidy heap. Sir Mandon Moore went to take his place under the throne beside two of his fellows of the King's Guard. Sansa hovered by the door, for once unguarded. The Queen had given her freedom of the castle as a reward for being good, yet even so, she was escorted everywhere she went. "Honour guards for my daughter-to-be," the Queen called them, but that did not make Sansa feel honoured. Freedom of the castle meant that she could go wherever she chose within the Red Keep so long as she promised not to go beyond the walls, a promise Sansa had been more than willing to give. She couldn't have gone beyond the walls anyway. The gates were watched day and night by Janos Slint's gold cloaks, and Lannister house guards were always about as well. Besides, even if she could leave the castle, where would she go? It was enough that she could walk in the yard, pick flowers in Myrcella's garden, and visit the Sept to pray for her father. Sometimes she prayed in the Godswood as well, since the Starks kept the old gods. This was the first court session of Joffrey's reign, so Sansa looked about nervously. A line of Lannister house guards stood beneath the western windows, a line of gold-cloaked city watchmen beneath the east. Of small folk and commoners she saw no sign, but under the gallery a cluster of lords, great and small, milled restlessly. There were no more than 20, where 100 had been accustomed to wait upon King Robert. Sansa slipped in among them, murmuring greetings as she worked her way toward the front. She recognized black-skinned Jalabarjo, gloomy Sir Aeron Santigar, the Redwine twins Horror and Slobber, only none of them seemed to recognize her. Or, if they did, they shied away as if she had the grey plague. Sickly Lord Giles covered his face at her approach and feigned a fit of coughing, and when funny drunken Sir Dontos started to hail her, Sir Balon Swan whispered in his ear and he turned away. And so many others were missing. Where had the rest of them gone? Sansa wondered. Vainly she searched for friendly faces. Not one of them would meet her eyes. It was as if she'd become a ghost, dead before her time. Grand Maester Pycelle was seated alone at the council table, seemingly asleep, his hands clasped together atop his beard. She saw Lord Varys hurry into the hall, his feet making no sound. A moment later Lord Baelish entered through the tall doors in the rear, smiling. He chatted amiably with Sir Balon and Sir Dontos as he made his way to the front. Butterflies fluttered nervously in Sansa's stomach. "I shouldn't be afraid," she told herself. "I have nothing to be afraid of. It will all come out well. Joff loves me, and the Queen does too. She said so." A herald's voice rang out. "All hail his grace, Joffrey of the houses Baratheon and Lannister, the first of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, and Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. All hail his lady mother, Cersei of House Lannister, Queen Regent, Light of the West, and Protector of the Realm." Sir Barristan Selmy, resplendent in white plate, led them in. Sir Aerys Oakheart escorted the Queen, while Sir Boros Blount walked beside Joffrey, so 6 of the King's Guard were now in the hall. All the white swords save Jaime Lannister alone. Her prince, no, her king now, took the steps of the Iron Throne 2 at a time while his mother was seated with the council. Joff wore plush black velvet slashed with crimson, a simmering cloth of gold cape with a high collar, and on his head a golden crown encrusted with rubies and black diamonds. When Joffrey turned to look out over the hall, his eye caught Sansa's. He smiled, seated himself, and spoke. "It is a king's duty to punish the disloyal and reward those who are true. Grand Maester Pycelle, I command you to read my decrees." Pycelle pushed himself to his feet. He was clad in a magnificent robe of thick red velvet with an ermine collar and shiny gold fastenings. From a drooping sleeve, heavy with gilded scrollwork, he drew a parchment, unrolled it, and began to read a long list of names, commanding each in the name of the king and council to present themselves and swear their fealty to Joffrey. Failing that, they would be adjudged traitors, their lands and titles forfeit to the throne. The names he read made Sansa hold her breath. Lord Stannis Baratheon, his lady wife, his daughter. Lord Renly Baratheon, both Lord Royces and their sons. Sir Loras Tyrell, Lord Mace Tyrell, his brothers, uncles, sons. The Red Priest Thoros of Myr, Lord Beric Dondarrion, Lady Lysa Arryn and her son, the little Lord Robert, Lord Hoster Tully, his brother Sir Brynden, his son Sir Edmure, Lord Jason Mallister, Lord Bryce Caron of the Marches, Lord Tytos Blackwood, Lord Walder Frey and his heir Sir Stevron, Lord Carol Vance, Lord Jonos Bracken, Lady Shella Went, Doran Martell, Prince of Dawn, and all his sons. So many, she thought as Pycelle read on and on. It'll take a whole flock of ravens to send out all those commands. And at the end, near last, came the name Sansa had been dreading. Lady Catelyn Stark, Robb Stark, Brandon Stark, Rickon Stark, Arya Stark. Sansa stifled a gasp. Arya. They wanted Arya to present herself and swear an oath. It must mean her sister had fled on the galley. She must be safe at Winterfell by now. Grand Maester Pycelle rolled up the list, tucked it up under his left sleeve, and pulled another parchment from his right. He cleared his throat and resumed. In the place of the traitor Eddard Stark, it is the wish of his grace that Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West, take up the office of Hand of the King, to speak with his voice, lead his armies against his enemies, and carry out his royal will. So the king has decreed. The small council consents. In the place of the traitor Stannis Baratheon, it is the wish of his grace that his lady mother, the Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, who has ever been his staunchest supporter, be seated upon his small council, that she may help him rule wisely and with justice. So the king has decreed. The small council consents. Sansa heard a soft murmuring from the lords around him, but it was quickly stilled. Pycelle continued. It is also the wish of his grace that his loyal servant, Janos Slynt, commander of the City Watch of King's Landing, be at once raised to the rank of lord and granted the ancient seat of Harrenhal, with all its attendant lands and incomes, and that his sons and grandsons shall hold these honours after him until the end of time. It is moreover his command that Lord Slynt be seated immediately upon his small council to assist in the governance of the realm. So the king has decreed. The small council consents. Sansa glimpsed motion from the corner of her eye as Janos Slynt made his entrance. This time the muttering was louder and angrier. Proud lords whose houses went back thousands of years made way reluctantly for the balding, frog-faced commander as he marched past. Golden scales had been sewn into the black velvet of his doublet and rang together softly with each step. His cloak was checked black and gold satin. 2 ugly boys who must have been his sons went before him, struggling with the weight of a heavy metal shield as tall as they were. For his sigil he'd taken a bloody spear, gold on a night-black field. The sight of it raised goose prickles up and down Sansa's arms. As Lord Slynt took his place, Grand Maester Pycelle resumed. Lastly, in these times of treason and turmoil, with our beloved Robert so lately dead, it is the view of the council that the life and safety of King Joffrey is of paramount importance. He looked at the Queen. Cersei stood. Sir Barristan Selmy, stand forth. Sir Barristan had been standing at the foot of the Iron Throne, as still as any statue, but now he went to one knee and bowed his head. Your Grace, I am yours to command. Rise, Sir Barristan, Cersei Lannister said. You may remove your helm. My lady? Standing, the old knight took off his high white helm, though he did not seem to understand why. You have served the realm long and faithfully, good sir, and every man and woman in the 7 kingdoms owes you thanks. Yet now I fear your service is at an end. It is the wish of king and council that you lay down your heavy burden. My burden? I fear I do not... The new-made Lord Janos Slynt spoke up, his voice heavy and blunt. Her Grace is trying to tell you you are relieved as Lord Commander of the King's Guard. The tall, white-haired knight seemed to shrink as he stood there, scarcely breathing. Your Grace, he said at last, the King's Guard is a sworn brotherhood. Our vows are taken for life. Only death may relieve the Lord Commander of his sacred trust. Whose death, Sir Barristan? The Queen's voice was soft as silk, but her words carried the whole length of the hall. Yours, or your king's? You let my father die, Joffrey said accusingly from atop the Iron Throne. You're too old to protect anybody. Sansa watched as the knight peered up at his new king. She'd never seen him look his years before, yet now he did. Your Grace, he said. "I was chosen for the White Swords in my 23rd year. It was all I had ever dreamed. From the moment I took sword in hand, I gave up all claim to my ancestral keep. The girl I was to wed married my cousin in my place. I had no need of lands or sons. My life would be lived for the realm. Sir Gerald Hightower himself heard my vows. To ward the king with all my strength, to give my blood for his. I fought beside the White Bull and Prince Lewin of Dawn, beside Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Before I served your father, I helped shield King Aerys, and his father Jaehaerys before him. 3 kings, and all of them dead," Littlefinger pointed out. "Your time is done," Cersei Lannister announced. "Joffrey requires men around him who are young and strong. The council has determined that Sir Jaime Lannister will take your place as Lord Commander of the Sworn Brothers of the White Swords." "The Kingslayer?" Sir Barristan said, his voice hard with contempt. "The false knight who profaned his blade with the blood of the king he was sworn to protect." "Have a care for your words, sir," the Queen warned. "You are speaking of our beloved brother, your king's own blood." Lord Varys spoke, gentler than the others. "We are not unmindful of your service, good sir. Lord Tywin Lannister has generously agreed to grant you a handsome tract of land north of Lannisport, beside the sea, with gold and men sufficient to build you a stout keep, and servants to see to your every need." Sir Barristan looked up sharply. "A hall to die in, and men to bury me. I thank you, my lords, but I spit upon your pity." He reached up and undid the clasps that held his cloak in place, and the heavy white garments slithered from his shoulders to fall in a clean heap on the floor. His helmet dropped with a clang. "I am a knight," he told them. He opened the silver fastenings of his breastplate and let that fall as well. "I shall die a knight." "A naked knight, it would seem," quipped Littlefinger. They all laughed then, Joffrey on his throne, and the lords standing in attendance, Janos Slynt and Queen Cersei, and Sandor Clegane, and even the other men of the Kingsguard, the 5 who'd been his brothers until a moment ago. Surely that must have hurt them most, Sansa thought. Her heart went out to the gallant old man as he stood shamed and red-faced, too angry to speak. Finally he drew his sword. Sansa heard someone gasp. Sir Boros and Sir Meryn moved forward to confront him, but Sir Barristan froze them in place with a look that dripped content. "Have no fear, sirs. Your king is safe. No thanks to you. Even now, I could cut through the 5 of you as easily as a dagger cuts cheese. If you would serve under the Kingslayer, not a one of you is fit to wear the white." He flung his sword at the foot of the Iron Throne. "Here, boy. Melt it down and add it to the others if you like. It will do you more good than the swords in the hands of these 5. Perhaps Lord Stannis will chance sit on it when he takes your throne." He took the long way out, his steps ringing loud against the floor and echoing off the bare stone walls. Lords and ladies parted to let him pass. Not until the pages had closed the great oak and bronze doors behind him did Sansa hear sounds again, soft voices, uneasy stirrings, the shuffle of papers from the council table. "He called me boy," Joffrey said peevishly, sounding younger than his years. "He talked about my uncle Stannis, too." "Idle talk," said Varys the eunuch, "without meaning." "He could be making plots with my uncles. I want him seized and questioned." No one moved. Joffrey raised his voice. "I said I want him seized." Janos Slynt rose from the council table. "My gold cloaks will see to it, your grace." "Good," said King Joffrey. Janos Slynt strode from the hall, his ugly sons double-stepping to keep up as they lugged the great metal shield with the arms of House Slynt. "Your grace," Littlefinger reminded the king, "if we might resume, the 7 are now 6. We find ourselves in need of a new sword for your Kingsguard." Joffrey smiled. "Tell them, mother." "The king and council have determined that no man in the 7 kingdoms is more fit to guard and protect his grace than his sworn shield, Sandor Clegane." "How do you like that, dog?" King Joffrey asked. The hound's scarred face was hard to read. He took a long moment to consider. "Why not?" I have no land nor wife to forsake, and who'd care if I did? The burned side of his mouth twisted. But I warn you, I'll say no knight's vows. The sworn brothers of the King's Guard have always been knights, Sir Boros said firmly. Until now, the hound said in his deep rasp, and Sir Boros fell silent. When the King's herald moved forward, Sansa realized that the moment was almost at hand. She smoothed down the cloth of her skirt nervously. She was dressed in mourning, as a sign of respect for the dead king, but she had taken special care to make herself beautiful. Her gown was the ivory silk that the Queen had given her, the one Arya had ruined, but she had them dye it black and you couldn't see the stain at all. She'd fretted over her jewellery for hours and finally decided upon the elegant simplicity of a plain silver chain. The herald's voice boomed out. If any men in this hall have other matters to set before his grace, let him speak now, or go forth and hold his silence. Sansa quailed. Now, she told herself. I must do it now. Gods, give me courage. She took one step, then another. Lords and knights stepped aside silently to let her pass, and she felt the weight of their eyes on her. I must be as strong as my lady mother. Your Grace, she called out in a soft, tremulous voice. The height of the Iron Throne gave Joffrey a better vantage point than anyone else in the hall. He was the first to see her. Come forward, my lady, he called out, smiling. His smile emboldened her, made her feel beautiful and strong. He does love me. He does. Sansa lifted her head and walked toward him, not too slow and not too fast. She must not let them see how nervous she was. The Lady Sansa of House Stark, the herald cried. She stopped under the throne at the point where Sir Barristan's white cloak lay puddled on the floor beside his helm and breastplate. Do you have some business for King and Council, Sansa? The Queen asked from the council table. I do. She knelt on the cloak so as not to spoil her gown, and looked up at her prince on his fearsome black throne. As it please your Grace, I ask mercy for my father, Lord Eddard Stark, who is the hand of the king. She had practised the words 100 times. The Queen sighed. Sansa, you disappoint me. What did I tell you about traitor's blood? Your father has committed grave and terrible crimes, my lady, Grand Maester Pycelle intoned. Ah, poor sad thing, sighed Varys. She is only a babe, my lords. She does not know what she asks. Sansa had eyes for only Joffrey. He must listen to me. He must, she thought. The king shifted on his seat. Let her speak, he commanded. I want to hear what she says. Thank you, your Grace. Sansa smiled, a shy secret smile, just for him. He was listening. She knew he would. Treason is a noxious weed, Pycelle declared solemnly. It must be torn up, root and stem and seed, lest new traitors sprout from every roadside. Do you deny your father's crime? Lord Baelish asked. No, my lords. Sansa knew better than that. I know he must be punished. All I ask is mercy. I know my lord father must regret what he did. He was King Robert's friend and he loved him. You all know he loved him. He never wanted to be hanged until the king asked him. They must have lied to him. Lord Renly or Lord Stannis or somebody. They must have lied, otherwise... King Joffrey leaned forward, hands grasping the arms of his throne. Broken sword points fanned out between his fingers. He said I wasn't the king. Why would he say that? His leg was broken, Sansa replied eagerly. It hurt ever so much. Maester Pycelle was giving him milk of the poppy, and they say that milk of the poppy fills your head with clouds. Otherwise he would have never said it. Varys said, A child's faith. Such sweet innocence. And yet, they say wisdom oft comes from the mouth of babes. Treason is treason, Pycelle replied at once. Joffrey rocked restlessly on the throne. Mother? Cersei Lannister considered Sansa thoughtfully. If Lord Eddard were to confess his crime, she said at last, we would know he had repented his folly. Joffrey pushed himself to his feet. Please, Sansa thought. Please, please, be the king I know you are. Good and kind and noble. Please. Do you have any more to say? He asked her. Only that as you love me, you do me this kindness, my prince, Sansa said. King Joffrey looked her up and down. Your sweet words have moved me, he said gallantly, nodding as if to say all would be well. I shall do as you ask. But first your father has to confess. He has to confess and say that I'm the king, or there'll be no mercy for him. He will, Sansa said, heart soaring. Oh, I know he will.
What a messed up way to get fired. In front of everyone.
Yeah, literally, in front of, the whole office.
Mm-hmm. No respect. He did kind of get a good deal, though. Not gonna lie.
Well...
Here, we're gonna give you a bunch of land, servants, and, go live out the rest of your days.
But he's not wrong. It is a hall to die in.
It is. But, I'm saying, in the land of Westeros, in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, not many people get that opportunity.
This is true.
Especially when you've served on the King's Guard as long as him. He's been through 3 kings and he somehow lived. Maybe that just screams how bad he is at his job, though. Because they did point out all those kings died.
Yeah, but... And this is terrible that I don't remember or I don't know, but did Jaehaerys and the other one... Well, Robert... To be fair, though, was Barristan with Robert when the shit went down?
That was what I was thinking. I think so. I think because the King's Guard goes wherever the king is, so I'm pretty sure the King's Guard was there.
That's true. Yeah, but Barristan was looking out for, humans in the woods, not boars, and Robert was hunting. I feel like that's just something that, happens. What are the King's Guard supposed to, kill the boar?
Yes. Like Secret Service style, jump in front of the bullet.
Ugh. Yeah, but
I'll save you.
I know, but...
And take Pumbaa in the chest.
But maybe he thought Robert had it. Maybe he thought he had this. He got it.
Maybe. Well, that's just Robert. Where did I... Well, okay. So Robert... Yeah, Robert probably would have told him to get back. He's going to do it himself.
Probably. There was probably an argument. Barristan was probably like, no. And Robert was
you're tipsy.
No. And Robert
I'm always tipsy, you fool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't blame Barristan for that one. And Aerys, you can't really...
And then Aerys,
you can't blame him for
Jaime
that.
Did that.
Right, Jaime just did that. Because Barristan was probably there, we're guarding the king, the king, we're doing our job.
You got the king, right, Jaime? Oh, I got him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He probably, was just sitting there, minding his own business, guarding the king, and then all of a sudden, oh, my coworker just killed the king. Was not ready for
Quick,
that.
Jaime, we have to get the king. Okay, Sorry about that. Put in my resignation today. We don't know what happened with the previous king. What was his name?
Jaehaerys. And I don't know about that one because Fire and Blood only covers up till a little ways past the Dance of Dragons and doesn't cover the rest of the Targaryen reign. So we don't really know much about Jaehaerys, or maybe we do. I don't know. We haven't read the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms book, so I don't know. Sure. But the point is the only Jaehaerys that I remember is the good King Jaehaerys and his queen Alysanne.
Yeah.
And their 2 dragons.
Yep.
And they were really good at their job being king and queen. I don't know. The point is, he got fired in front of everybody.
Yes, he did.
And he totally
it was not
scene.
A graceful resignation. I mean, on his part, it was awesome.
He did
exactly what he should have done.
Absolutely, he was a badass. That's how I hope to leave my job someday. I hope to leave a job someday like Barristan Selmy left his job. Fine!
You fools! I could outfile all 5 of you. You want to do that?
But I feel like Oscar from The Office. I dream. I just dream.
Drop your laptop.
That's right. Done! And it's interesting because Sansa actually has a moment of perception with Barristan Selmy's resignation. Like, she genuinely feels bad for him. She kind of feels like I feel like she almost interprets it as she does feel he got, like, shafted and it wasn't fair what happened to him, and she really genuinely feels bad for him.
And props to her, she saw through Joffrey's facade and saw his age a couple times, right through his little tantrums.
Yeah.
No, you can't let Barristan... He threatened me! He said something about Stannis. Bring him back. Let's see, will they bring him back, or will they just find,
Right, will they catch him, or will he get away? I'm assuming he has to go on the run now, because he rejected everything, and...
Well, I think he would have been fine. He probably wouldn't have got any of, like, the perks and stuff, but I think he would have been fine if Joffrey didn't then say, bring him back here.
He did say that thing about Stannis.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're really building Stannis up to be kind of like a real threat. Stannis seems kind of dangerous in comparison to Renly.
Yeah.
Because Barristan literally says, well, Stannis is going to take your throne, so we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah.
Who is Stannis Baratheon, Doda? Who is that man? Well, we know who he is, but who is he really?
Well, we really don't.
We've just heard about him. Oh, we've
heard anecdotes from his brothers and Eddard.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't met the man, the myth, the Stannis.
Stannis the Manus. Maybe we will someday.
This was a Sansa chapter, I think, that was really good.
This was a really good Sansa chapter. She seems to kind of be opening her eyes a little bit, because she definitely does see, like, oh, this is her king and he loves her and she does all that stuff and he's listening to me and he believes me, but then at the same time she does have 2 moments where she's like, oh my god, he's acting like a child. This is embarrassing.
Yeah. And she has the cojones to step up in front of everyone and ask about her father.
Right, like she does have a moment where she does actually think about Arya.
Yeah.
And
even if it is a moment like, oh my god, yeah, Arya, shoot.
But even still, like, in her thoughts about Arya, she's thinking, oh, Arya, she ran away, she got away, she's probably safe at Winterfell. Yeah. Like, almost like she's actually hoping, like, Arya is safe and Arya's okay. Yeah, it's
kind of the most compassion you could expect from Sansa for Arya.
At this point?
Yeah.
Yes. And she's noticing that all the other lords and ladies at court are, like, shunning her.
Yeah.
But you're also kind of seeing this perception in Sansa where she's like, I took the ivory gown that I was given, I dyed it black, I'm gonna wear a simple chain. Like, she almost, like, her preoccupation with appearance is actually now,
working in her favor,
and she's learning how to dress appropriately and put off the kind of presentation she needs to put in order to...
Right, kind of the vanity of politics she's learning.
Right. Like, she's almost a little more grown up in this chapter than definitely she was in the last one.
Right, because the last one ended with her, oh yeah, Arya.
Yeah.
Forgot to mention her.
And you also get a clear sense. Sansa doesn't think it, but you definitely get that everything the king says and does, he then looks and says, right, mother? Right, mother?
Little mama's boy.
Yeah, like he needs his mother's approval for everything.
Now, in his defense, I know there's not a lot you can defend Joffrey for, but he is what, 14?
12, right?
12?
I think he's 12 because Robb is 15. Robb is 15, but Joffrey's 12, and him and Robb are the same height. And
Okay.
they always talk about how tall Joffrey is for his age, how he's so tall.
Well, either way, 12-year-old now ruling a kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair.
Like, yeah. I'm not, I mean, if I was 12, I'd probably be like, Mom, is this okay? Should I do this?
Yeah.
I don't want to piss off 200,000 people who would then want to kill me.
Yep. And you get input from Littlefinger and Varys and
But I also think watching Joffrey now, after the Bran chapter, where Bran had to be Lord for a day, you kind of see the comparison where Bran's younger. I feel like Bran handled that much better.
Yeah,
even if
Bran kept his shit together.
More to handle.
Bran kept his shit together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously different acting Lord of a house versus acting King of the entire realm.
Yeah.
But
And then
still,
you could compare it to how Robb handles it, but we've already said Robb is much older.
But Bran is also not just 7 and trying to be a lord, but he also has his disability on top of it, making him insecure, whereas Joffrey is literally, like, to put it in Sansa's words, the epitome of what, like, a prince should look like, and he's tall, and he's handsome.
And I guess, is that really a reflection of Joffrey versus Bran, or Robert versus Eddard in their parenting?
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe.
Or maybe Eddard and Jaime parenting. But
yeah, but
you know,
Jaime doesn't really parent, you know? He's not really involved.
Neither did Robert.
Well, okay, fair enough.
And you don't know what goes on. Maybe he knows.
Who, Jaime? Maybe he knows.
No, maybe Joffrey knows.
Oh, that Jaime's his dad?
Yeah.
Maybe. What? I was loving you so nicely, and you're just going to walk away? Come on now, you. No.
But yeah, I guess at that age, you could really just compare parenting styles, honestly. Robert was never really there. Or if he was
drunk.
He was drunk.
Yep. And then you have Cersei. And say what you want about Cersei so far in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can say what you want about Cersei and being with Jaime and whatever else, but...
Disgusting.
But Cersei really does seem to very much love her children.
Yeah.
And want to take care of them and do the best for her children, even if they are incest babies. They are still her children. They are still her babies, and she seems very much...
Even if they should have 3 eyes and a finger coming out of their ear.
Or be extremely disabled or something.
Yeah.
Or ridiculous autoimmune deficiencies, you know. She still seems to be very much loving to her children and wanting to be like a good mother to them.
Well, yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, Catelyn is the same way. It's just manifesting itself differently, right?
I guess the question is, would Catelyn have pushed Joffrey out of a tower?
Well, Cersei didn't push Joffrey out of a tower, or Bran out of a tower. Jaime did. But I guess Cersei...
we also know that Eddard wouldn't.
Yes, that's true.
So,
unless
I guess...
Catelyn probably wouldn't have... Catelyn probably would have freaked out if Eddard did it, whereas Cersei really didn't take issue with it. She was just like, oh, he sees us! And I see you, and you're beautiful.
So I guess, you know, if someone caught Catelyn and Maester Lewin or something. Maester
Why?
Lewin.
Why?
And he was just the first one to pop in.
Oh, no! Not okay! Gross! No! I have pure
No wonder.
memories of Maester Lewin, and now you've ruined it!
No wonder Bran is such a brilliant boy.
Gross. Gross. Ew.
All right. Disgustingness aside.
Sansa was actually very brave in this chapter.
She was.
She really asked her father for mercy, or asked for her father. Oh Jesus! Asked for mercy for her father, and her arguments are actually very
Well
logical. Yeah. But of course, then you got Grand Maester
I think she's
Pycelle over
right?
there being like, "No, all treason must be rooted out." Blah blah blah.
And then Varys. Oh, she's just a girl, just a child. She doesn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of true, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is the first chapter you see Sansa kind of understanding the predicament that she's in. She knows that, okay, yeah, I have free reign of the castle, but I can't go anywhere. Lannister guards are following me all around.
Right.
No one wants to associate with me. Yeah. Not even even Ser Dantos doesn't want anything to do with her.
Yep. Yeah, she's starting to really realize that she's
severity of the situation.
Yeah, she's starting to come to terms with the fact that she actually is a prisoner, even though it doesn't feel like prison. She is a prisoner in the castle.
And we got a lot more insight into Eddard's situation, and hey, I mean, as long as Eddard is able to put his pride aside for 10 minutes and pledge fealty and say that Joffrey is not some abomination and is the true king, he might get to go to the to Castle Black and hang out with Jon.
Right? How bad would that be? To hang out with Jon?
Get to be in the cold again. And I mean, he's right there next to Winterfell.
The old bear.
Right? And he's right next to Winterfell. You know, people can come visit. No big deal.
He could come visit Winterfell. Maybe if Ned takes the Black, he can go find Benjen.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lola?
Snow and Stark. Riding side by side.
Yeah. Snow and Stark. And Ghost.
Yeah.
Because Ghost is a good boy.
Ah, okay. So we get to go see how the Stark half is doing in prison. How he's handling that.
Yeah.
3 hots and a cot. Maybe just 3 hots. Maybe just rats. Who knows?
Hopefully, well, if this is medieval times, and it is based off of medieval times.
Well, medieval times is probably 3 lobsters and straw.
I just hope he has a poop bucket.
Yeah.
I don't even know about food. I'm just thinking if he has a poop bucket, he's doing pretty good.